Hello teachers, and welcome to the norming video for the constructed response section for 4th grade math for CA3. Before you begin the norming process, please download or print the exemplar responses that are posted underneath this video in a PDF file. So getting started, you'll see the rubric on one side and the constructed response on the other side. To see the sample responses, please go ahead and download or print that exemplar response page. The very first question is a pretty in-depth question, and so that exemplar page will really help you see how scholars might answer this. So for the very first one, Julian he's walking down a sidewalk, and for every 12 steps he passes a tree. So scholars might draw a picture to help themselves understand this, but the question is asking them how many steps Julian will pass after 132 steps. And so what you want scholars to understand is that he'll take 12 steps past a tree, 12 steps past a tree, 12 steps past a tree. So it's 12 times some number will equal 132 steps. They could also reverse this and do 132 divided by the 12 steps. And what they should receive is 11 trees, and they'll receive 1 point for getting the correct answer of 11 trees. And then they will receive 1 additional point for the setup. And that setup can be a picture or a number sentence or showing their multiplication or their division. And that'll be for a total of 2 points, as you see right here for part A. Part B goes a step further and says that for every 48 steps he takes, he passes 1 house. So if scholars set this up in a picture, they'll notice that for every 4 trees, they pass 1 house. And that will help them hear how many trees will he pass if he passes 10 houses. So you'll see here, scholars need to set it up to understand that he's taking 48 steps times the 10 houses. So that means that he is taking a total of 480 steps. And so they actually get 1 point for finding 480 steps, whether they write that out or they show you the math. And then from there, we'll need to show that for every 12 steps he takes, he passes a tree. So they'll take the 480 and divide it by 12 to get 40 trees. So they get an additional point for the setup and then another additional point for the correct answer. So part B is worth 3 points. Again, check the exemplar response and it'll show you a sample way that scholars might answer this. And then for part C, it's saying that for every block in Julian's neighborhood, there are 7 houses. So how many blocks does he need to walk to pass 140 houses? So this one is only worth 2 points, 1 for setup, 1 for the correct answer. So what scholars should understand is that the 7 houses that are on a block times a certain number of blocks equals 140 houses. And so they need to figure out what goes in the blank, and that would be 7 houses times 20 blocks equals 140 houses, and they can multiply this or divide it. Again, check the exemplar for an exact way that scholars might answer this question. So moving on to part 2, or question number 2. This one is a geometry question. So this is worth a total of 4 points for question number 2. And the first one asks them to name 2 angles that are acute angles. So this is just testing. Do they understand the vocabulary associated with types of angles? So they need to note that angle B and angle D are both acute angles, and they receive 1 point for each, for noting each. So if they only write angle D, then they only receive 1 point. For question number 2, or sorry, for part B, it asks how many right angles are here. Again, this is really having scholars just identify, do they understand this vocabulary? They should write none or 0 or write in the number 0. and they receive 1 point for doing that. And then for part C, it asks them to name 2 line segments that are parallel to each other. So they can either write that AB and DC are parallel to each other, or they can write that AD and BC are parallel to each other. And they receive 1 point for that. In order to get the full credit, you'll see here that scholars must identify both lines in order to receive that point. So the very last one, number 3, here we go, is an area and perimeter type question. So it is asking scholars to take a look at this grid and seeing that there's a swimming pool that is put in here that is 30 yards by 40 yards. So the first question, this is worth a total of 4 points. And part A is just asking what is the area of the swimming pool. So scholars need to multiply 30 times 40. When they multiply 30 times 40, they will get 1,200 square yards. As the rubric says, don't take away points if they don't write the units. All they need to do is they need to show how they got their answer and then get the right answer, and that will receive 1 point. Part B asked how many yards does the side of each small square of the grid represent? So for this, what they're going to have to understand is that down here at the bottom, this is 30 yards, and it also happens to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 small squares. And so they will have to be able to say if it's 30 yards and 6 squares, that's 5 each. And then likewise, 40 divided by 8 is 5 each. So in some way they need to set this up for you, such as 40 divided by 8 or 30 divided by 6, as you can see in the example over here. And then also note that 5 yards is the correct answer. They get 1 point for setup, 1 point for the correct answer. And this is the same where you should not take away any points if they write the units incorrectly. For part C, it's saying that the staff is also planning to create a soccer field and to draw a 20 by 50 soccer field on the same grid of squares. And so they will most likely do theirs right down here somewhere or off to the side. You'll want them to have a correctly drawn rectangular soccer field that has one side equaling 20 and one side equaling 50. That'll be a 4 by 10 units in this grid. So that will be rewarded with 1 point. So if you have any questions, do not hesitate to post it on the discussion board found on Blackboard. Thank you.